Hi there! With Voymastina fast approaching and most players eyeing to get her, I wanted to make a short video to help you prepare her gear and provide a few tips on how to best deal with the more tedious aspects of the attachment and remold systems. First, with the start of Corpusant, we're now able to farm the Close Assault set, which provides an unconditional 12% damage bonus plus another 24% when dealing melee damage. Similarly to Phase Strike, this set is very generic and can be used on anyone even if they don't have melee attacks in their kit. Farming such sets is more stamina and calibration chip efficient than say the Physical Boost set, which is only used by very few characters. That said, Close Assault and Physical Boost are almost identical in their performance on Voymastina. Since 1/3 of her attacks deal melee damage, Close Assault comes out ahead by about 1%. If you've already pre-farmed and calibrated a Physical Boost set, there's no reason to start over. But for anyone else, you're better off farming Close Assault, since a fully calibrated set can be easily transferred to other non-physical doors in your formations. When it comes to attachment management in general, the lock plan feature is the best tool for the job. You reach this menu in the storeroom from the attachment tab. Before farming any set, you may want to set up at least the most common stat preference of flat attack, attack boost and crit rate. Once this is set up and you activate the auto lock toggle on the lower left, any attachment from the set that meets the condition will be locked automatically. Unfortunately, you can only specify 2 lock plans per set, but there's a workaround to lock more combinations without going through every piece one by one. That is an important time saver, so that you can use the quick selection when calibrating attachments. For some reason, searching for certain conditions is much more cumbersome in the calibration screen than it is in the lock plan. Here, you can't filter multiple attributes jointly. Instead, when I specify that I want to see all pieces with flat HP and flat def, a combination that I want to discard, I get pieces with flat HP and/or flat def. That's not helpful when you want to keep combinations such as flat HP, HP percentage and crit for any HP scaling character. So rather than going through all of the filtered pieces one by one to determine which is worth keeping and which can go, let's go back to the lock plan menu. While we can only specify 2 plans at once, we can also use this feature to search for attachments that meet certain conditions that aren't set to automatically lock. I usually have the attack, attack percentage and crit combinations unlocked for all sets that I wish to keep around. Some sets like Double Strategy, Phase Resonance or Ally Support are not worth saving for anyone, so you can throw these away no matter what. For the element specific boosts, it's up to you how many variations you want to keep. In this example, let's consider Phase Strike, the set I've been farming exclusively for the longest time. My second plan has health scaling on lock as an alternative to attack scaling. When I press search attachments, no unlocked pieces that meet the conditions of the 2 plans are found. Now we can modify one or both of the plans for another stat combinations that we wish to lock. For instance, I also want to keep defense and crit around in case we get a defense scaling character. These are also already locked. There are more variations that might be better for support characters that don't need crit, for instance a combination that uses attack and HP for someone like Springfield. When changing the plan to flat attack, attack percentage and health percentage, I now find quite a few pieces. We can lock these all at once. You can repeat this process for any of the sets that you wish to quickly use as fodder in the attachment calibration screen. If you want to be safe, I suggest locking combinations with crit at one of the main attributes, so attack, HP or def plus crit. Then there are some characters that scale off a different stat in addition to attack like Springfield or Helen, so you could lock attack and HP or attack and def. I personally don't lock HP and def as a combination since we've never had a character scale off 2 non-attack attributes. But again, this is up to you and your storage space. Once you're done with a set, you can filter for it on the calibration screen and start slamming that quick selection button. If you follow my suggestion, you're now feeding pieces that mix HP and def or combine multiple main attributes with crit. If you run out of storage space at some point, you can go back and quickly unlock a stat combination via the lock plan. For muzzles, it's the same process, just that you want to look for a combination of 4 stats. Now you want to include crit damage for the crit variants, or both flat and percentage stats for the non-crit characters. In the calibration screen, you'll have to filter for specialized attachments to only fodder muzzles. I wish there was a way to repeat the calibration automatically until you get a better result. Mika, please make it happen. When it comes to the stopping point, the typical sweet spot is an average of around 160% calibration success. Once you get to that, you can decide if you want to use gold chips to wrap things up or keep fishing for a better result at the expense of more gold. For muzzles, you may have to lower your expectations a little. Here I was at an average of 145% calibration success. Since I had more than 10 million gold, I wanted to keep going to see if I could get lucky. I did not, so I wasted 5 million gold. Not one of my best moments. The interface for the Remold system suffers from the same issues as the calibration screen. You can search for a main stat, but for some reason are not allowed to filter for a subset at the same time. Again, the log plan circumvents this restriction, which you reach from the storeroom in the Growth Data tab. The quote-unquote flowers fall into 4 main categories corresponding to the classes in the game. Each class slot has its unique set of 4 main attributes, but they all share the same sub-attributes. For the Sentinel slots, attack boost is usually the stat you want to build, no matter what. Pinpoint specialization provides single target damage, area specialization AoE damage. Voymastina has a mix of both, so they are not ideal to build. Thronebreaker provides an unconditional damage bonus, but only when attacking bosses. Since Voymastina mixes her damage sources, and we mostly care about her performance against bosses, we want to build attack boost and Thronebreaker on her. For substats, you're looking to build physical boost for more physical damage and physical smite for crit damage of physical attacks. Then, CQC Elite boosts close range damage within 3 tiles of the target. Since Voymastina rushes towards the opponent, this works well on her. Follow-up Strike is another generic damage booster so long as the opponent is in stability break. Finally, Ichor Conversion boosts attack further based on the character's HP. Attack bonuses are always valuable to have. Once the log plan is set up, we can search for matching pieces. I haven't been too diligent about farming these, since Phase Clash isn't exactly enjoyable, so I'm not getting a lot of matches. I hope your luck or dedication has been better. This piece is pretty good though, so I'll certainly lock this. For the Vanguard slot, you're looking for Smite Boost and Beheading Blade, which boosts crit damage and further boosts crit damage against bosses. As with the Sentinel slot, the other 2 options focus on single target versus AoE damage, and Voymastina uses both. The substats are again the same selection from before, since they can appear on all of the slots. Again, I can't find too many matching pieces, but I'll take what I can get. Finally, for the Bulwark slot, the main stats don't really matter, since they are defensive, but we have to define something, so just select all of them. HP boost would be best to synergize with Ichor Conversion, but that's really min-maxing. The substats are again the same options as before. You need some of the Bulwark stats to activate all of the Imago forms, so you don't want to avoid them entirely. For this example, we'll use Cluecase since her slots are identical to Voymastina. She uses 4 Sentinel slots, 1 Vanguard and 1 Bulwark. The interface to set up a character is much worse than the log plan, so there's a bit of searching around involved. You can define the main attribute, but only the typing of the substat. We're not actively looking for Bulwark stats, so we can set up a filter like this to search for attack boost flowers. You can also make your life easier by unlocking all flowers before going into this interface. Then you use the log plan to only lock down the matching flowers that you're currently targeting. That way, you can quickly find the pieces that match your criteria. You'll probably have to mix and match a little though to complete the Imago form, so some searching around is unavoidable. Regardless, here's a pretty decent one with attack boost, physical smite and crit boost. We won't really need crit rate though, so perhaps we can find something better. Stats like Onslaught or Raid Stance that boost active or out of turn attacks aren't optimal on Voymastina, since she uses a mix of both, but if there's nothing better, you can use those as well. You may also end up taking a piece with Bulwark stats to complete the Imago form. This is easier to determine at the end when you're choosing your final slots. Once we're at the finishing line, we want to make sure we meet the stat requirement to activate all bonus effects. For Cluecase, that means we need a total of 5 points in Bulwark, 6 in Vanguard and 18 in Sentinel. I was able to achieve this, but the substats could use some improvement still. Remember that you sometimes get these growth data packs that sit in your storeroom. Some let you select a stat combination among predefined options, others are random. Here you can see that one was locked due to our log plan. And there's another one. The selector has a pretty good piece for physical single target damage dealers. It's usable on Voymastina, but better on Dian, Ulrid or the upcoming Cheyenne. Here's another selector with a great piece, again more geared towards the single target dealers. There's one of these selectors in the current event shop, but otherwise make sure to do your phase clashes, especially when Voymastina is here. They usually reward some flowers that fit the current raid up character. I usually try to do at least 2 out of the 3 areas to get the weeklies done, though admittedly I also sometimes forget. But yeah, I think that does it for this one. I'll leave you with this overview of Voymastina's preferred setup for easy reference. I hope reminding you of the utility of the log plan feature is going to save some of you at least a little bit of time and anguish. but let me know if you found this helpful at all, or if all of this was old news. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.